Thank you very much, Kathy. Well, we move to this hot story here. South African Airways is set to take off nearly 2 years after it was placed in business rescue. Since the 1990s, government has provided tens of billions of rand as guarantees to the airline and billions more in the form of a bailout. After a lengthy wait, SAA is set to take off on the 23rd of September, and they began selling tickets today. Joining us is the interim CEO of South African Airways, Mr. Thomas Kgokolo. Thank you very much for joining us, Mr. Kgokolo. Let me start here. What has made it possible for you to find yourselves here where you can boldly announce that indeed you are ready for takeoff after 21 months that you were basically grounded in a business rescue?
Good evening, Xolani. Good evening to your viewers and also to the loyal SAA customers out there. Remember, when SAA went into business rescue, the intention of the shareholder was not to liquidate SAA, but to bring it about as a sustainable airline. So end of April, we went out of business rescue, and that's where we find ourselves. And out of that particular business rescue, there was some working capital that we put in place in order for the airline to restart operations. And in that regard, as we restart operations as well, the shareholder is busy in talks with a strategic equity partner who can then be able to come and add resources, both financially and technically, so that SAA can then continue into a foreseeable future as a sustainable airline.
Let's talk about the details now. How much staff has been returned to the airline? How many routes are new? How many have been curled? How different is this SAA from the previous one?
Thanks for the question. We've got staff members of roughly around about 800, and you'll see that we have retained about 88 pilots. And if you look at our routes, we were very careful when we selected our routes. We needed to make sure that we are observant of the data that the market is telling us, and that we choose routes that are demand-led. You'll see that domestically in South Africa, we've chosen the Cape Town and Johannesburg route, because when we did our modeling and numbers, it shows that it is a good route. It's got enough load factors to cater for us as well. We then looked at the regional routes. We looked at the regional routes from a perspective of COVID vaccination, COVID infections, and lockdowns as well. We also looked at the routes that used to be productive for us in the past as well. And when we compared the sales and the cost to operate those particular routes, we were comfortable that those routes will give us some recovery from an operational cost perspective. So they won't be adding outflows into the SAA's balance sheet, but they'll be bringing some, covering their own cost as well. And that's why you see we've chosen routes like Harare, Maputo, Kinshasa, and Accra, because we believe that also the competition landscape in those particular routes is much more smaller compared to what we see in the country. And we believe they give us the best chance of competing going forward.
Is there going to be a name change, and is there going to be a new board that's going to be reconfigured, and when is that going to happen?
Look, I think we don't want to be far ahead of ourselves. What we are going to do now is to restart SAA by making sure that we improve on customer excellence, we improve on the service that we render. We look at digital footprint in order to improve customer journey as well. The issue of name change, the issue of new boards, those are things that will be discussed between the shareholder and the SEP. But what we can confirm is that the branding, the name will not be changing going forward. But as I said, those are the issues that the shareholder and the SEP will discuss once that process is finalized. For now, we focus on restarting and making sure that we serve the Republic of South Africa and the continent at large.
We also heard today from the potential equity partner, Takatso Consortium. They actually issued a statement saying that they have met most of the obligations that were supposedly put in front of them in the due diligence process. They haven't put any money into SAA. And the last time we spoke, when it comes to that 10.5 billion rand, SAA was yet to receive some of that money. So tell us about that particular, decision or that due diligence by Takatso Consortium as far as you are aware.
Yeah, I mean, as you have seen, the statement that was issued by them is that the due diligence basically process is, complete or close to completion. They are busy with the share purchase agreement. And I think that is something that will be discussed between the shareholder and the consortium. And on our side as management, we hope that it can be moved quickly so that we can then be capacitated from a resource point of view. So where we stand again is that the working capital that we have will carry us forward in a short term. But it is important that the SEP comes on board so that we can then be recapitalized medium and long term going forward.
It's all good and well that SAA is now returning to the skies, but let's look at your subsidiaries. Air Chefs have not received money, as well as Mango Airlines, which is your subsidiary, going into voluntary business rescue. How did we get there when the mother company is actually taking off?
Very good question, and it is quite unfortunate what is happening at the subsidiaries, and it's something that doesn't please us as well, because we are part of one family, we're part of one group. Mango currently is busy with the business rescue process to see how we can revitalize it and inject some capital into it and see how the future of Mango looks like as well. The issue of the funding for subsidiaries is something that through the process of approval and getting money through to the subsidiaries, there were delays that were beyond our control. But now that the money is much more closer, there's been tight engagements between the boards of the subsidiaries, the shareholders as well, in terms of how do we make do with the little money that we have. Remember, the government has indicated that there will be no more funding going forward. So we need to be very cautious and very careful in utilizing the little money that we have. But where we stand, is something that saddens me as a CEO as well, and is something that I'd like to see improve as soon as possible. But the consultations are taking place with the employees and the shareholder and the boards of the subsidiaries.
Mr. Kgokolo, let's talk about unions. The unions have told Newzroom Afrika that through all of this good news and restarting of operations, they have yet to meet with you. Although pilots have had to re-register, get their licenses, retrain, a lot of work has been done, but the unions feel left out. How true is that? And at what point do you think that you're going to bring them on board to be part of this restart process?
Look, our approach around the restart process is always to be inclusive, include all the stakeholders. I mean, since my deployment at SAA, I have met with the employees in various units, and we've had a chat. I've met with the unions when we started this particular process. But we must appreciate that we are running a due diligence process and also preparing to restart. And also we are restarting an airline that a lot of employees took their VSPs. So time is very limited. Yes, we would like to engage more, but there is more happening on the ground that we had to move. But as we proceed into the restart plan, we'll definitely engage with our employees because we want their input, we want their ideas, and we want to consider it. It's just unfortunate that we've been managing too many variables at this stage. But we have engaged with them, and we will be engaging with them going forward.
Before I let you go, sir, you have carried SAA to this particular point. You are currently in an acting capacity, or do you want this job on a full-time capacity?
Very, very difficult question. I always say that at this stage, my agreement with the board is to get on the ground, work, restart the airline, make sure that the operating model is sustainable, assist them with bringing the SEP on board. And that is my focus at this stage. And I would like to conclude that particular task. And I think once that is done, we can then sit with the board and see the future involvement from myself within the group itself.
Mr. Thomas Kgokolo, the acting CEO at South African Airways, telling us the good news there about the restart of operations at the airline.